Hello, Superboy Beyond fans. Welcome back. It's Tom and Chris, your favorite super commentators. We're going to be jumping into season 3 today with 2 episodes that we thought we had done already, but apparently we did not.
Yeah, I could have sworn that we'd done these quite a long time ago.
Yeah, we're going to be jumping into the beginning of season 3, which is The Bride of Bizarro. Okay, so you guys all know the drill. There's not going to be any bits of the episode in here. There's no audio, nothing like that. There'll be a very highly filtered version right up there, so that you can keep in track with us. Because we all know you got to go to the bathroom, you got to do this, and this. No worries. So just get yourselves ready. Get your DVD or your streaming copy ready. And remember, it is season 3, episode 1, The Bride of Bizarro, part 1. 3, 2, 1, play.
It's funny because I know that I talk an awful lot about the various different hairstyles in this show just because 80s hair is just so outlandish. It's just so wacky sometimes that it's impossible not to comment on.
Right.
But this is an episode where it's kind of a transitional thing where I don't think they'd quite sorted out what they wanted Gerard's hair to look like in season 3. So there are some scenes in Bride of Bizarro. I can't remember if it's in part 1 or 2, but his hair is very different to any other episode. Like it's almost like it's just long, very, very curly, but it also looks kind of greasy at times. It's a weird one.
Yeah.
But, it'll be interesting looking out for that. I'll point out what I mean.
So we got our first shots of what is in this universe Capital City.
And it's a good way to establish that we've moved to a new location. Okay, they're supposed to be still in Florida, but obviously Florida is a very big place. So,
yep. And this actress here playing the character of the talk show host Judy Donatella is a parody / pastiche of actual talk show host Sally Jessy Raphael.
Yeah.
Right down to the glasses, the blonde hair, and the mannerisms that she's doing.
And it's funny because I don't think Sally was ever as popular in the UK as she is over there. So the only thing I know Sally from is the Addams Family.
Right.
When Gomez keeps phoning her up trying to find out where the witches congregate. Because yeah, good episode. I wonder if they originally planned for it to actually be Sally in this episode, but had to then work something else out. I do always like when they do their own version of something, though. You know, it wouldn't be as fun seeing Clark Kent in a McDonald's as it would be in a Big Belly Burger, would it? So
yeah,
it's always fun when they have their own brands and TV shows. What's the name of that news guy or whatever that was in Young Justice? He was voiced by Tim Curry.
That was G. Gordon Godfrey.
Yeah, like whenever that character's involved, like that's a lot more fun than if they just had like an actual news presenter or something coming in playing themselves, but it's a bad guy.
I will say this about this sequence. This was shot a lot better than the crowd scene / people running in pandemonium in Neela, which is only a couple of episodes later.
Yeah.
Because it seems like everybody actually is scared, and yet in Neela, that you have that one old guy who's just getting up really slow.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that Sherman is actually wearing the bald cap here.
Yeah, they didn't do it very often, but I always appreciated when they did. I suppose part of it is that they knew that season 3 was kind of a soft reboot of the entire show. So I don't know, maybe they just figured, if there's some people that hadn't seen the earlier seasons, they needed to explain a lot of stuff and get it out of the way. And just putting him in the bald cap is just an instant way of just establishing for the audience, yep, this is our Lex Luthor. You don't need to know any more than that, really.
Yeah. And this is our first introduction to the Bureau.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this episode. We've had the Capital City introduction. We've had the reintroduction of Bizarro, a little bit with Lex Luthor. But I love just the establishing shot of the Bureau set. And I've got to say, I don't think the Bureau ever quite felt as lived in, like an actual workplace, as it does in this first scene. There's a lot of extras for this first scene. You don't quite get as many of them later on.
Yeah. And, of course, episodes written by Mike Carlin and Andy Helfer.
And David Grossman, I think, was the director on this one.
Yes.
And it is a very well-directed episode. Like, it's even just already at this point, it seems like it's a lot more cinematic than it was in earlier seasons.
Well, I think that also has to do with the fact that they did move studios when they're transitioning from season 2 to season 3.
It's also just little things like the cinematography, where the cameras are placed and stuff. Like there's a lot more sort of cinematic camera angles. Season 3. I wonder if Bride of Bizarro Part 1 and 2 were actually given a slightly higher budget than the rest of the season, just to really establish that this is a new Superboy this year.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard that it was actually moving from the NBC network to Channel 9 here. That was WOR Channel 9. And it was just simple, Gerard and Stacy, in costume as Lana and Superboy, just saying, we're moving to Channel 9, come September.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some promos for Superboy. I've seen a couple of trailers here and there. It's a shame that the DVDs didn't include any of that stuff, because I don't think I've ever seen that promo. I know, as you say, it's a very simple thing, but it's still something I wouldn't have minded seeing.
There's a lot of stuff like that could have been included on the DVDs. But remember, seasons 2, 3, and 4 were bare bones DVDs. Manufacture on demands. We're lucky we got the special features we got on season 1.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't even think the Warner Archive DVDs are dual layer discs. They're not the silver DVD discs. They're the purple ones, like the ones you can burn yourself at home.
Yeah.
So it's obvious that they had a considerably lower budget for those DVDs. Because let's face it, there's even some like foreign piracy DVD like makers that would like have the higher quality printing for discs and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of Warner Archive. You do save a few quid as well, because they don't actually charge you as much as they probably would otherwise.
Yep. So now we get okay, is it just me, or does Stacy's performance as Lana seem a little bit more scared than she should be?
Maybe she's just concerned. She's a little bit worried. Plus the fact that Bizarro is apparently smashing the place up. Maybe she's just...
But it almost looks like the look she's giving is like a PTSD, look. Like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And she's just thrown back into that moment. It's a little bit... It's a little
bit over the top for what the last episode ended with.
And Douglas Barry Myers, of course, doing a great job as Bizarro here.
He always does. Yeah, just this episode in general, just so many extras in the bureau. I don't think there's any other episode where it seems quite so hectic in the main room, you know.
Yeah, it seems like it's very lived in, very functional here.
Yeah. Feels like an actual workplace where stuff is being actually getting done rather than just people sat around chatting, which is basically all most TV show workplaces do. Or just someone in the background just typing on a keyboard, you know.
And Robert Levine is really playing Mr. Jackson as, a bit of a hard ass here.
I mean, he's basically playing it like Perry White. I mean, we all know that's basically what they were going for with that character. And it's funny, looking at this episode, it just makes me really, really wish that they got the royal blue suits a little bit earlier, because Bizarro's outfit looks very washed out in this episode. So does Gerard's as well, to be fair, but maybe it's just, badly transferred for the DVD or something. Maybe originally the colours were slightly better.
Yeah. And this is a very, very, supervillain-esque plot of Lex's.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where we start to see, Tracy Roberts with the bleach blonde hair that she became synonymous with for the rest of the series.
Yeah. I definitely prefer her looks in season 3 and 4. Not that she didn't look good in season 2, obviously. It's just I like that pure white hair that she's got going on, as you say.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, they were just a bunch of wigs, but still. And even that black feathery dress thing that she's got going on is just, yeah. They really decided to go full Teschmacher with her outfits this season. Just make them just really heightened and over the top.
And then this just proves what you were saying, that they probably had a higher budget on these first 2 episodes.
Yeah, because even Lex's lair here, it's a really good set. I mean, it's probably just an abandoned building or something, but I think maybe that's even blue screen behind those windows. I'm not sure. Could just be a painting or just a still photo or something, but I just like how textured the sets feel this episode.
Although it is interesting, they're working out of an abandoned building or abandoned warehouse, which is, you can see from the background, it's kind of scuzzy and dirty and disgusting, and they've got this beautiful red couch sitting in the middle.
Yeah. Maybe that was Darla's one contribution to the lair. She's like, well, we need a comfortable couch.
Yeah, and remember, at this point, nobody knows about Darla, really.
I'm sure they must have come across her at some point by the end of season 2, surely.
Because remember, Superboy didn't get a good look at her at the beginning of season 2.
No, and when she broke Lex out of prison,
she was dressed as a priest.
She was dressed as a priest, yeah, so he wouldn't have necessarily recognized her from that. Yeah, I guess by this point, Darla is kept pretty under the radar. He's probably aware that Lex has a sidekick who's a woman at this point, but that's probably about as much as they know. And the fact that she's always wearing wigs mean you can't even include her hair color as part of the descriptor, because for all you know, when she's not working with Lex, she might take it off and have black hair. You have no idea.
Right.
It's almost a shame that they didn't play that up a little bit more. And we have talked in the past about wishing that Lex had more disguises throughout the show, because that's always a fun comic booky thing. Oh. I love that moment. It's like the perfect combination between the Clark we'll now know in season 3 and 4, but with just a tiny little reflection of what he was in season 2. Like, there's a tiny bit of the Urkel, but it's so much more toned down.
Yeah, and
this episode is just go on.
Yeah, as we've discussed before, Gerard signed on to do seasons 3 and 4 because they allowed him to now play Clark the way he wanted to play him.
Yeah.
Which I have to say, in many cases, and Gerard, if you're watching this, please do not take this the wrong way, but you're basically playing him the way John did in season 1.
Yeah. Although he's still got slightly more of the physical comedy, like that moment just there where he collapsed. It's nice seeing there are still elements of the season 2 Clark in the performance. They're just a little bit more subtle this time. But this episode, just across the board, I think is just very well directed. Like the lighting, the cinematography, just everything. It just feels a lot more cinematic than last year.
A lot of night flying in season 2. Well, sorry, season 3.
I respect the choice. I wish that the lines around the, where they've green screened him in, I wish the lines were a little bit better, but it's not the end of the world. I appreciate the fact that they're going more stylized in every aspect. They're not cheaping out on the visual effects. I mean, they could be better, but they could be a hell of a lot worse too.
Mm. The only thing I don't like about the way they do Kryptonite is it's just basically a regular crystal or rock that they superimpose this green haze over.
Yeah, you can tell in some shots that it's just literally a white sort of crystal shape.
I think it might have been a little bit better if they had had a green crystal with a little. At that point, they hadn't done LED lights yet, but a little bulb in it that made it just seem like it was glowing. I mean, the superimposition of the green haze around Superboy's face is great, but
I mean, what sort of bulbs did they use for Christmas tree lights back then? Just literally little light bulbs that would get hotter and hotter.
Yeah.
I mean, would that have been so dangerous if they had just one little bulb inside the green crystal? If it's just a green semi-transparent crystal, you wouldn't even need it to be a colored bulb. It could just be a white one because the color would come from the crystal itself.
Yeah.
You could have had a little wire feed up the sleeve of the costume or something, and just a little battery pack that he just kept behind his belt or something around the back where the cape would have hidden the battery pack. Like they do with clip-on microphones on the news these days. I'm sure they must have had that tech back then. Because let's face it, I mean, there's much more ambitious things like that have been done on TV at this point.
Indeed.
It does make me wonder what the little lights they used for like the models in Star Trek were when they have all the little lights on the ship lit up. They must have literally just had light bulbs themselves just inside the model or something. I don't know. I will say this, as much as I appreciate that they had the green skin effect on Gerard, I don't know, I wish that it was a little bit better composited sometimes, because there was a few moments there where his hand, the green blur effect went away from his hand, so his hand looked normal for a split second. And it's just,
yeah, but you could attribute that to the fact that he's moving further and further away from the kryptonite, that it's not affecting him as badly.
But the blob of green, it was just that the blob moved independently of his hand for a second. It was just, it wasn't quite tracked properly. Maybe it's more noticeable in this episode because it's a night shoot, whereas if it was during the day, it'd be a little bit harder to see the edges. I do wonder about the Bizarro Darla and Bizarro Lana. Is it literally just the same sculpt as Bizarro's face, or did they give them their own version? Because it does just look like the same face to me. Which would make sense from a budgetary standpoint, but... What do you think? Do you think it's a different mask, or?
I think they probably used the same mold for it, but they kind of shrunk it down because most women's heads are slightly smaller than men's.
And Bizarro Darla did have slightly more pointed cheekbones, I noticed, than Bizarro. Maybe that's all. Maybe that's as much as the difference was. Maybe they just extended a couple of the features slightly.
Yep.
But yeah, what an ending for that episode. I mean, I don't think anyone thought that Superboy would actually die there because it's literally the first episode of the season. But it's a really fun sort of... it's just a really fun ending.
Which just proves my point, about what John Byrne said about removing Superboy from Superman's history when he revamped him in '86. We already know he's not going to die. So you don't need to remove Superboy from his history.
Anyway, really enjoyable episode. I think it reestablishes the universe of the show in just a really brilliant way. I think it establishes the new locations that we're going to be spending a lot of time in. I appreciate that. I mean, if they didn't give this episode a slightly higher budget, then they just used their budget remarkably well this episode, because I think more than any other episode, I think the Bureau feels like an actual place this time. It's not just a set.
Yeah.
And, if you're going to do that in any episode, this is the one to do it in. You want to... the beginning of every season of television, there are a bunch of viewers that tune in for the first time just to see, am I going to like this? Am I not? And yeah, putting in a slightly higher budget for this episode, who knows? It might have helped them keep a few more viewers. And we do know that by the time Superboy ended, it was one of the higher rated syndicated shows. Maybe episodes like this are part of the reason. Really fun episode. I don't think we'll bother giving this one actually a score this week. We might as well just do both parts at once. So we'll let you go for now, but we'll see you next week for part 2. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Viacom.